Hey guys, what is up? It's Bibzuda7 here again, and today I am bringing you a day one guide to Zamorak, the Lord of Chaos. This boss and required elite dungeon prior to him just came out today, and I've gotten quite a few kills in, so figured I would share what I've learned, as I usually do. And as I always do for these day one guides, this will basically just include things that have worked well for me and helped me get kills, and won't really be the absolute best strategies or optimal methods to kill the boss at all. It's mostly to help anyone who's looking to get their first kills on the first day or two, or just learn the mechanics of the boss. And once the boss has been around for a week or two, I'm sure better strategies and guides will exist. So, yeah, just be aware of that if you're watching this in the distant future. Also, note that this guide will be focused on solo mode, since that's what I learned pretty much all day. But in groups, the fight is really not much different as far as I could tell, because I did do a few duo kills, and it's pretty much the same, I believe. I'll only be going over the boss itself and not the prior dungeon, but I could make some tips for the elite dungeon as well. If people are interested in that, just let me know in the comments. Also, I have not yet reached 100% in Rage, which I have heard rumors that there's an additional phase added at that point. So I won't be including that in this video, but I may upload a video tomorrow, like as an add-on to this guide, to include details for that additional phase. So I will link that in a pinned comment when I do make it. Also, I won't really be covering gear setups too much in this guide because I don't want to make it too overly long. I'd probably just recommend, like a standard tier 90s plus setup of whatever style you want, overloads obviously, and stuff like that. You can probably use whatever style you like. I'm using magic. Also, I am using a mammoth for most of my kills right now, because you do take a lot of damage in this fight. And I mean, I'm sure if you're good enough, you can easily get away with a ripper. But for me right now, while I'm learning, I'm using a mammoth. I would recommend you do the same. But if you're confident, you can go ahead with a ripper demon. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the guide. First of all, it's really important to know that Zamorak has two types of auto attacks. There's his ranged and his magic auto attacks. He will throw red balls for magic, and these always come from his left hand, and he will fire red spikes for ranged, which is using his right hand. Note that these are his hands, so if he's facing you, it's the opposite. I know those things can get a little confusing sometimes, but I'm talking about the hands from his perspective. He will swap this about every 6 auto attacks, so try to keep count if you can, or just watch for the different projectiles. It is a set rotation though, like he won't swap based on your prayer or anything like that, so you don't have to be constantly switching, unless you're soul split flicking, of course. Another key detail of this fight is the behavior of his health bar. It's quite a bit different than most other bosses. He has a baseline of 300k normal health, which will increase, of course, with the enrage level, but he will start the fight with 75,000 gray health, which is basically the health bar is gray and reads 75,000. I just call it gray health. And this gray health indicates to you that it is time to charge up another one of the edict pads in the arena to advance the fight. And while his health is gray, Zamorak will be rapidly healing that gray health itself. So not his normal health. He'll be healing that gray health, or just increasing it. And the rate at which he heals increases as well the longer he is healing for. So it's really important to charge an edict as soon as possible once you hit the gray health, because that will stop his healing. After you charge an edict, the remaining gray health that he had will change to a red health bar, and he will stop healing at that point. Once you deplete that red health bar, then his normal green health bar will come back, and then you'll need to get that green health bar down to the next phase transition point, and then you'll swap back to the gray health, and so on until you manage to kill him. So it is a bit weird of a system, but once you understand it, it makes sense how it works. So just make sure that pretty much whenever he has that gray health, your number one priority is charging an edict to switch it over to red so he stops that healing process. Now, in the Zamorak arena, there are 6 pads which hold the Edicts of Guthix, which you must charge or activate in order to defeat Zamorak and, I guess, banish him from Gielinor. Each of these pads provides a certain buff, as well as an accompanying hex when you charge them up. These can be activated in any order you choose, but the ones you activate first will gain additional stacks each time the next edict is activated. So you really have to choose carefully which ones you activate and in what order. And the effects of these pads going clockwise, starting from the easternmost pad, are number 1, all your basic abilities will generate 2% additional adrenaline per stack of that edict. And then Zamorak's attacks will deal a second hit equal to 10% of the first hit per stack. The second edict is ability cooldowns are reduced by 20% per stack, which comes with the hex that if the player's health falls below 5% of their total health per stack, you will be instantly killed or executed. So that one is very dangerous. Number 3, the edict is while you are standing near a hexed rune, the player deals and takes 5% more damage per stack, kind of like a Telos Red Beam. And that comes with the hex of Zamorak spawning 2 healers, which must be killed because they will heal him way too much and you really can't out hit the damage. You have to kill the 2 healers. But this only happens once, as opposed to all the other edicts pretty much, which continually either get stronger and get more stacks or do things multiple times. That only happens once ever. So next up, number 4, the next basic attack after an ultimate ability that you use will deal 20% more damage per stack and heal you for 8% of your max HP per stack. Pretty complicated and weird one. That comes with the hex of Zamorak's attacks pushing through 7% of shielding effects per stack. So things that block damage are going to be less effective the higher that is. Number 5 will give you the edict of while standing near the Sword of Edicts, which is in the center of the arena, players will deal and take 5% less damage per stack. So kind of like a Telos Black Beam in that way. And that comes with the hex of chaos traps spawning throughout the arena. And these are little red circles on the ground where if you step on them, they will deal high magic damage and stun you. And he puts one of these on every single one of the other edict pads. So whenever you activate this one, all the future edicts will have a chaos trap on it that you have to step on to start the activation process of another edict. And then if you don't get off it soon enough, you will get hit by an additional pad that gets spawned when you activate the edict you were on. Because whenever you activate an additional edict, more chaos traps will be spawned throughout the arena. So that's important to be aware of those and dodge them or anticipate, because they deal about 2.5k through prayer and like 5 to 6k without prayer. So they can be pretty dangerous. And the final edict is you will deal 6% more damage per stack if you're below 60% health. And the hex is sources of healing will heal 10% less per stack. So that one is a bit dangerous too, especially if you, any source of healing. It includes not just food, also soul split and things like that. So those are the 6 edicts and hexes that accompany them. And the order is pretty much totally up to you. Whatever you want to do, the order can vary really a lot depending on your goals for the fight. Like, are you just trying to be safe and get the kill? Are you trying to go as fast as possible? Mixture of both. It's really up in the air. And even then, it's, kind of debatable which thing you'll really even go for each of those goals. The order I've been using, which I feel is pretty safe, and you may disagree, is I start with number 3, which is the healers that he spawns, and you deal more damage when near a hexed rune, which I don't really use, but the healers will spawn, and you kill those immediately right at the start. And then I do number 5, which is the chaos traps, because I find those not too hard to avoid, and I'm easily able to just anticipate and devo whenever I'm going to stand on the next edict and take the hit and not take any damage. Then I'll do number 1, which is the basic abilities giving you more adrenaline per stack, which is a good one to have. And then Zamorak's attacks will deal a second hit of damage. And then I will go do number 4, which will cause the attacks to push through 7% of shielding effects. It's important to note for the safety that I'm going for, I mostly only consider the hex issues. I don't really look at the benefits you get too much from the edicts because I'm not really trying to incorporate those, since those are mainly going to be when you're looking for speed, as far as I understand it. But I'm basically just going with the most to least threatening, or least to most threatening hexes, in my opinion. So then after number 4, I will go to number 2, which is the execute. If you fall below 5% of your total health per stack, you will be instantly killed. And your health bar also changes when this is active, so you can very clearly see when you will die if you are, getting low. And then lastly, I will do number 6, which causes the healing to heal you for 10% less per stack. And that is the order that I do them in. Again, you can do them in whatever order you want. It's completely up to you. Experiment with different orders, see what works best. That is just the order I've been using for my first few kills. I'll probably change it up. It's just the thing I've been, starting with to try and, be as safe as possible, I guess. So to charge up these edicts, you just need to stand on it for a few seconds. And then Zamorak will play a little animation of him like casting the hex or whatever. And then, very important note, you will be given 100% adrenaline shortly after that animation finishes. So this is very key in getting through the fight quickly, is making use of that free instant 100% adrenaline you get after activating each edict. So that's definitely important to be aware of. The fight also does make use of the extra action button, as many fights have done in the recent past. So make sure you have that somewhere on screen. You will use that to enter and leave Infernus, which is a separate, smaller arena in the fight, which has a few mechanics related to it. So you'll need to use that button to enter it and to leave it whenever you enter it yourself. And you'll need to enter it whenever Zamorak is switching over to gray health after the first time. So he starts in gray health, and you can immediately charge an edict. But every time after that, when he gets to the next phase threshold and has his gray health available, you'll have to go inside Infernus using the button to kill a mage who is in there. And then once you kill that mage, you can leave and then charge another edict. You have to do that first before moving on to the next phase of the charging process. So that's what the extra action button is used for. And now we'll move on to Zamorak's special attacks. The first one he'll use is a sort of slam attack. He will say, "This world will burn," and impale the ground with his wings. And this will hit you twice pretty quickly for huge melee damage. It can pretty much one-shot you. So you're going to want to switch to melee prayer, and that will block quite a bit of it. But you'll probably want a Devo for this as well if you have it available, since it still deals quite a bit of damage through your melee prayer. And also, after that slam, he will send out a black smoke, which will put a bar over your head. And once that bar empties, it will explode, and you'll take about 3k typeless damage, which you can reduce quite a bit with Disruption Shield or Resonance. And it's possible this smoke can be avoided, but I haven't really been able to do it yet. It's just that sometimes I don't get it in a duo, so I think there must be some way you can not get this smoke bomb. And you did hear correctly, the Disruption Shield and Resonance, which normally block all damage, will not do that in this fight. That's a very important thing to note. And this obviously gets worse the higher stacks you have on the reduced shielding power, but even without any stacks, you will still not be able to block all damage with these normally blocking all damage abilities. So it can be very scary. There's a new type of hit splat, I believe, that they've introduced with this that shows you that there is additional damage leaking through those blocking abilities. So yeah, just don't be relying completely on taking 0 damage with a quick Disruption Shield, since that won't necessarily work in this fight. The next special attack that Zamorak has, he will target each player and send a Gothixian rune towards them, which will be red, and that will pull you into Infernus, which is the same arena as you can enter yourself to kill the mage, but now there will be a demon inside, one for each player in the fight, and you'll need to kill it, because if you don't, it'll come out into the arena later with more health and start attacking you, so you want to just kill it while you're in there quickly. And you'll then need to go to the rune in that little Infernus arena that matches the one above your head in order to get out. You can't use the extra action button to get out of this, when you get sent there by his rune attack. You have to find the rune that matches and go through. If you go to a rune that doesn't match, you'll take a lot of damage and have to go back and find the rune that does match. So make sure you're correct when you're going to one of the runes. While this is happening, while you're in Infernus, Zamorak will also be charging another one of his special attacks. So he kind of does 2 specials at once here. And depending on how long you take in killing the demon, this can also happen while you're still in Infernus and can hit you while you're in there. So you got to be careful. He will say, "Feel the rage of a god," and will send out this fire projectile, this red fire. and that will deal massive typeless damage and will just easily just one-shot you 100%. You can use Resonance or Disruption Shield, and that'll lower the damage to like 6 or 7k, which is still obviously a lot. So you want to make sure you're high health with this, and just be careful because even with strong defensives, it'll still hit you a lot of damage. If you're really quick in Infernus, you can get out of there and then stun him and damage him in order to potentially lower that blast damage, but usually you don't have enough time to really do that. So the next special attack is he can also basically do that blast attack, which hits you massively without sending you to fight the demon. He'll basically yell, "I will tear you asunder," and will curl up, kind of like hiding behind his wings a little bit. And if you stun him while he's doing that, and then deal a certain amount of damage that will be shown to you on screen, like some random amount, he'll then fire the attack immediately after that damage is dealt, and it will deal quite a bit less damage, but you still need to block it with Disruption or Resonance for sure, or like Reflect. Pretty much any defensive you have available, you'll need to use one, but it'll be quite a bit lower, usually about half that damage, maybe around 3k if you block or if you interrupt it very quickly. Another special attack he has, he'll say, "You're already dead," and will then spawn a massive circle, kind of like a big, huge rune on the ground, which will have a big circle under him and then an outer circle with a space in between the two of them that you want to basically stand in. So there's this big ring of space between the two circles that you'll want to stay within, and there'll be a pretty large cloud of black smoke moving around that circle, which can change directions and kind of go all over the place. It moves really fast, so you can't really always avoid it, but just stay out of it as much as you can. If you are in it, you'll take kind of low typeless damage every tick, or maybe every 2 ticks, which is like 500-ish. And it'll also be able to stun you if you get hit by it too many times in a row. So make sure you use Anticipate if it's starting to get close to you. If you try to get out of here and like don't stand in the space, you'll just start taking a ton of random damage. So you definitely just want to stay in that circle area, even if you're going to get hit by the black smoke, because it's not as bad as if you're not in there at all. It just absolutely wrecks you. And the last special, he will say Chaos Untethered, and will place an indicator on the ground under you. And despite what you might think, you actually want to stay in that indicator for sure. Your prayer will be turned off, but not disabled, so just quickly turn back on Deflect from Magic as quickly as you can, and then you probably want to use Reflect or Debilitate here. And then you'll get bombarded with a few rapid magic hits, but they don't hit too high as long as you get your prayer back up and use a defensive. If you end up leaving that little, I think it's a 1-tile circle that he puts under you, you'll just get hit by even larger typeless damage hits, and they'll also drain your adrenaline. So you definitely don't want to move out of that little circle. Now, the order he does these specials in is he'll start out the fight with the Slam, so be ready for that, pray melee, or Devo. Then he will send you to Infernus, where you have to kill the demon and avoid the giant blast attack. He'll then do the Chaos Untethered that I just talked about. He'll then do the regular huge blast where you are able to interrupt it. And then he will do the big rune on the ground with the black smoke. And he will sometimes do the Slam again during the big rune attack if you're taking too long. So watch out for that, because that can sneak up on you if you're not expecting it. As far as I can tell from reviewing my footage and remembering my experience, I think he only does his special attacks while his green health bar is showing and not when he has gray or red health. This could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure on that, but keep that in mind. And if it is true, you'll be able to tell pretty quickly in the fight if he ends up using one when he's not on his green health. But this kind of made it hard for me to pin down the number of autos between specials, because he's still using autos during the gray and red health. So you kind of just have to be ready for whatever special attack is coming next, just be prepared to deal with it quickly. But I'm sure that at some point we'll have a better idea of how it all exactly works. And then that's pretty much it for the fight, at least below 100%. The cycle of the fight will be you charge the rune at the start, then reduce his red health to 0. Then you'll need to reach the next threshold on his green health, enter Infernus and kill the mage in there, and then repeat by charging the next rune. In between all that, of course, you have to deal with those specials, but that's the basic outline of how the fight will go. And once you're done charging the final rune, you'll deplete his health to 0 and he'll be dead. The basic strategy I pretty much use is I will instantly charge the first rune right when the fight starts. And then during every rune charging, I will basically set myself up to be able to deal a lot of damage right when it's done. So for you, maybe that you'll use your Death Swiftness or you'll Sun right before it's done charging. So since basically, remember, you get 100% adrenaline right after it finishes. So you want to make use of that here. What I do, since I have, the max mage setup, is I'll use Tsunami and my Fractured Staff of Armadyl special as the rune is finishing charging. And then I will Sun with that free 100% adrenaline. And then I'll basically just Threshold, use Omni Power, all that kind of stuff to hit the next gray health, to get rid of his gray health, or I guess it would be his red health at that point, and then hit the next green health threshold. Currently, for all my kills, that's been more than enough damage to reach the next threshold, and then I'll just go in and kill the mage that's in Infernus, and I'll start that process again. So yeah, that's been working for me so far. I'm sure at some point I'll have to continue doing more damage. It won't be enough to get to the next threshold, and then potentially have to deal with more specials, stuff like that. But for right now, that's what's working for me. And yeah, that's basically it. Once you get him down, once you have all the runes charged and you get him down to 0, he will be banished. And at the end, your loot will appear in a chest in the middle, which you can also use to bank to get your Luck of the Dwarves or reroll tokens out of there if you need them. So far, I've done 5 solo and 3 duo kills, and I've gotten 2 solo drops and 1 duo drop. Managed to make myself a solid 3.2 bill on release day here. So the profit is definitely there with this boss. And I think the bow pieces right now are going for ridiculous amounts because they are quite rare, possibly only available at 100% Enrage Plus. That's the rumor. Not sure if that's true or not. But yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. I hope this helped you out. Let me know if you guys have any good tips or strategies for this boss down in the comments. And good luck killing Zamorak. I will see you guys probably tomorrow for a guide on the potential additional phase, which is probably available after 100%. And also let me know as well if you want some tips on the dungeon itself, as I'd be more than happy to provide a video on that as well. Thanks for watching, and peace out.